School admissions and recruitment virtual info session on the application process, and we're really glad you're here. My name is Laura Peer. I'm an admissions and recruitment specialist, and I'm here with a current student, Jonathan Wright. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep, as Laura said, I am Jonathan. I'm a first-year MSW student, and I am studying health social work and policy within the social work context, and I work in the Office of Admissions and Recruitment.
Great. We're glad Jonathan is here. He's going to share a lot of his personal experiences with the application process and lots of great tips as we go. This is a live event. It's the second try. We had a technical difficulty, so if you had tuned in originally, we're sorry we lost you, but we're going to go straight through now, and we're glad you're here. Also, since this is live, we invite you to submit questions about any part of the application process as we go. So we will do our very best to address those questions as you submit them. So we're gonna kind of go between this video shot of us and a PowerPoint. So you'll see, we're gonna switch to our slides right now. Right. So we always start with the basics, deadlines. December 15th is our early action deadline, and for those who really want to know their decision early, you would know by February 1st. That's a good option for you. An additional benefit is that you will have early access to the Master's Research Fellowship opportunities, which open in January usually. So you would have to have a completed application by the time the MRFs are released. So our regular decision is March 1st, and you will receive your decision within 6 to 8 weeks. And then after that, we do have rolling admission, and it's based on availability of spots in the class and scholarships. And you would get a decision between 6 and 8 weeks from the date that you apply. We're going to take a broad look at the requirements for both the Master of Social Work application and the Master of Public Health application. As you can see, they have quite a few requirements in common, including your transcripts, CV or resume, personal statement, 3 letters of recommendation, and new this year is a video interview if you are interested in receiving or being considered for merit-based scholarships. And then for only the MSW applications, we also have an analytical essay requirement and the application fee. For the MPH application, we do require the GRE score or some comparable standardized test. If you go to our website, you'll see a list of additional tests that we accept. And then you would apply through our public health common application site, and so the fee schedule is a little different from our MSW application. And then we also have a human biology prerequisite, and it's not a prerequisite to apply, but you have to have it completed by the end of your first year. So if you're in undergraduate right now or otherwise want to make sure that's out of the way, I highly recommend you getting that done now, so you don't have to think about it later when you're a grad student. We are going to go through each of these individually in more detail. For international applicants, we do have a few requirements. Your transcripts must be submitted in English. If your institution does not provide an English translation, then you will have to have them translated through a service that provides, or a company that provides that service. For the MPH application, you have to go through WES, and they will submit the translation and evaluation directly to your SOFAS application. All of that is it's explained in the SOFAS application, and it's self-explanatory. So when we also require the TOEFL or IELTS to show English proficiency, the code for the MSW application to have your score sent is 6929, Department 95. And for the SOFAS application, you would use code 5688. And if you are admitted, you will, before you enroll, have to provide a proof of financial support. At the Brown School, we are very excited about our dual degree offering. We believe it's invaluable for those interested in the intersection of social well-being and health outcomes. Since both programs are housed within the Brown School, you will have a seamless experience maneuvering between the two programs. And as you see, they're very collaborative. And so to apply as a dual degree student, you apply to both programs individually, and you'll get separate admission letters and separate scholarship results. However, you'll only have to do one scholarship interview. Yeah, so you have to be admitted to both programs in order to enroll as a dual student. Alternately, it is possible to show up and arrive on campus as an MSW or an MPH and add that during your first year of study, add the second degree to become a dual degree student. Our joint degrees are in partnership with other schools within WashU, or we have two offerings within Eden Seminary, a community partner. For more information about the details about the types of joint degrees we offer within both programs, please check out our website. Right now, I'm just going to talk generally about how you go about applying as a joint degree student. As with the dual, you have to apply to both programs individually, and you must be admitted to both. The admission review process is completely separate. And you would need to indicate on both applications that you're applying to both programs. And then the financial aid and scholarship applications are completely separate. You're applying to two completely separate departments. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep going. Okay, at the Brown School, we talk a lot about our holistic review process. For us, this means we look at each applicant as an individual, and we carefully consider each part of the application process in a comprehensive way, and we balance each of these parts, which means that we don't just look at one piece like the GPA or standardized test scores or professional experience. We don't have cutoffs. We review every application that comes to us, and we believe that our holistic review is designed to build a community of individuals whose unique set of personal experiences, previous leadership roles, and professional aspirations will flourish within and enhance our outstanding community of advocates, activists, and leaders guided by a social mission. So I'm gonna ask Jonathan to share his experiences as how does the holistic review process kind of show up in the classroom and among your cohort of students?
Yeah, so with the fact that we use a holistic approach when reviewing applicants for admission into the Brown School, it provides the environment where there are many different sorts of students from different disciplines and backgrounds, geographically and academically, where we all meet together to collaborate and bring our own perspectives into the classroom experience. It also creates a lot of diversity within the Brown Schools community. Diversity in experiences, educational backgrounds, professional aspirations as well. There are people who want to start their own practices, people who want to be political advocacy, political activists, and it creates this really interesting environment where there are people from different disciplines coming together.
Great. Yeah, and another way that enhances the environment is that we have the freedom to invite maybe people that are not traditionally engaged in academia, but they're bringing experience and passion to the cohort, which really adds a well-rounded environment, I believe. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to talk about letters of recommendation now. So a lot of people ask questions about, how to choose recommenders. What's the best approach? Who should they ask to write a letter of recommendation? We prefer if at least one is an academic reference, someone that has been your professor, an undergraduate, or any other academic setting that you've been in somewhat recently, and at least one professional reference, someone who has supervised you in one way or another, whether it's in a full-time job or an internship or something like that. And the third one can be either academic or professional, or if there's someone that that really knows you well and can speak to your capacity for academic curiosity and rigor, your leadership skills, and your commitment to the field that you're applying to, even if they don't fit into the kind of academic or professional category, you may consider choosing them, whether they're an advisor or a leader in maybe a church or some other group that you're a part of. So, and people ask often if they're applying, for example, to the MSW program, should they have a current active social worker as one of their recommenders? And my answer to that is usually sure, if they can speak to your, all of those things that we've listed, your capacity for academic rigor, your leadership, and your commitment and passion for social work. If you have another professor that isn't a social worker that can speak better to that, then I would choose the other one, not the social worker. So I hope that gives an example. And Jonathan, if you don't mind, sharing a little bit about how you went about selecting your 3 recommenders and any tips you have for people to get started.
Sure. So as we've sort of mentioned, you want to make sure that you ask people that can speak to different parts about you. But I think some of the most important things to do are to ask early, because these take time. People are taking time out of their regularly scheduled work to write a letter for you. Ask them to talk about specific things, potentially too as well, to kind of guide or tailor your letter to show that you are a diverse individual. Sending a thank you note afterwards is always really helpful. It just shows that you appreciate the time and the work that they put into your letter. And like I said, really the big thing is to ask early, because odds are, especially if you are coming from a educational background or you're coming from an undergraduate program, you are not the only person who's asked them to write a letter of recommendation. So the earlier you can ask, I think the better.
Great, thank you. And another point, we do have questions from applicants who maybe have been out of an academic setting for quite a few years, and we understand that not everyone stays connected to professors or faculty or advisors throughout their professional careers. If that's the case, then just do your best to find another recommender that can really, a supervisor or someone who can speak to your skills within a rigorous work environment. So yeah, we're going to go back to our presentation and talk about a personal statement. All right, so for both the MSW and the MPH applications, you are required to submit a 2-page single-spaced personal statement in which you are invited and prompted to kind of share who you are, where you're coming from, what you hope to get at the Brown School, and where you hope to go. So we just really recommend that you follow the prompts, answer the questions asked, and really use this space and opportunity to show us who you are and what you are passionate about. I'm going to ask Jonathan to share a little bit about, do you mind sharing a little bit about your process of crafting your personal statement, if you have any tips?
Yeah. First tip is to read again, and read again. Preferably, if you can, read it out loud. So that way you can get a feel for what it sounds like coming to the admissions committee and what they're going to read and how they might perceive what you are writing. I think that another really good tip is to have a friend read it as well, or have another professor or professional colleague read it, so that way they can kind of see if what you are presenting also matches to what they are perceiving of how you are and what your values are, some of your strengths. They might even offer up additional strengths that you might have not necessarily included or provided in your personal statement. So it's a really good opportunity to provide a very broad and very values-based focus on who you are, what you want to do, and to talk about some of your skills and experiences that you've had that led you to social work and public health.
Great, thank you. Yeah, those are great tips. And the only thing I would add is just please be honest and show who you are rather than who you think you want us to see. So, because honesty really shines through and it gives us the best sense of who you are. And I now talk about for the MSW application. I mean, yes, you also have an analytical essay. It's also 2 pages, single spaced. And again, this is only for the MSW application. And this is an important piece as well. If you are prompted to choose a social issue that is important to you and to write about it, showing that some key factors and some plausible solutions to the issue, possible steps for implementation, and any potential obstacles or challenges you might find in those implementation steps. So we do get a lot of questions about this piece. So we do not absolutely require that you include original sources and data and citations. I would say though that the more successful ones do include that to back up your ideas. This is your chance to show your critical thinking. How do you use existing data to formulate new ideas and steps towards change? And yeah, we're gonna ask Jonathan this, he just a year ago was writing his analytical essay, just about this time. So we're going to turn to Jonathan for some thoughts and tips on how to make a successful analytical essay.
So I think it's really important to not be too broad with your analytical essay. I chose to take on some of the barriers and issues to the path of citizenship in the United States for immigrants and refugees who are coming to the States. But that's a really big issue to take on in 2 single-spaced pages. It seems like it might be enough, but you could really write a dissertation on some of the barriers to the path of citizenship. And I'm sure that there are people who are doing that in the PhD school. But instead, you could focus on maybe a local issue, such as food insecurity or a food desert that is near your community or in your community, and talking about how you can use that knowledge to discuss a social issue on the broad scale. So if you were to talk about food insecure school-age children in your state that you live in, you could write your essay about that, and remember that you don't have to expand to the full country because you only have 2 pages. The more succinct and narrow you are, I think the easier it'll be to write the analytical essay as well.
Yeah, that's great advice. And it's easier, and also I do think as someone who does review analytical essays, if you can stick to a more specific geographic region, it shows you have a bit more opportunity to show your critical thinking rather than focusing on a broad issue in a broad area. So yeah, great, thank you for that. Now we're going to look at the GRE scores for the MPH program. All right, so scores have to be less than 5 years old at the time that your application is complete. And here's the code, I think we put that earlier, 3867, that's our special SOFAS code for Washington University in St. Louis. Here's a list of the tests, standardized tests we do accept in place of the GRE. And for our international students, you'll see we do accept the USMLE. But we do still require the TOEFL on top of those for international students, unless you otherwise are exempt from that. So a little bit about the GRE. We don't have a lower cutoff. People do want a number, so we do share that we would hope that our applicants fall within at least the 50th percentile score-wise across the 3 categories. But certainly, you know, we do have space for some, you know, a little variation in that. And certainly, you know, a lot of our students do fall well above the 50th percentile. And yeah, so Jonathan applied to the MSW program, so he did not have to take the GRE. But so we will move on, and certainly if you have questions, please submit them. All right, transcripts. So for the MSW application, you only have to submit unofficial transcripts directly through the application portal. Once you're admitted and you decide to enroll, then you have to have your official transcripts sent to the Brown School from the registrar of the university or universities where you earned 6 or more credits. In some cases, if you transferred and those credits show up in detail on your final transcript, then you don't have to go back to that original institution and have that sent. So we must receive transcripts from any university at which you've earned those 6 credits. So yeah, I just said that about the transcript. Sorry about that. And, for the MPH, you just have to submit your official transcripts one time to SOFAS, and then they will just get evaluated and posted to your application, to all the designated schools that you select in your application. And then you wouldn't have to send any transcripts directly to the Brown School. There might be a couple exceptions to that, but generally you don't have to at all. And as with the GRE scores, a lot of students want to know what GPA we're looking for on transcripts. And again, we don't have an official cutoff, but we do say we like our applicants to have at least a 3.0 or higher in their, out of 4.0 in their undergraduate. And you know, we recognize that different systems within the US and certainly abroad, you know, the same GPA might mean different things. And so we do our best to take all of those factors into account when we review. All right. So the resume or CV, we don't have a preference. You can submit a resume or a CV, and we invite you to make it comprehensive. I know a lot of students, especially in undergrad, are encouraged to limit their resume to 1 page. For us, we don't, you know, we don't have any limitations. We want to know everything you've done that could indicate your potential here at the Brown School and in graduate school and going into the future. So any volunteer experience, internships, part-time jobs, summer work, anything like that that can speak to the path that you're on and your potential, we want to know about. Great. And finally, well, I want to take a note right now. If you, we are going to be wrapping up in the next couple of minutes. So if you have any questions that you'd like to submit, now would be a great time to submit them, and we'll make sure we answer them. Great. And so a little bit about our merit-based scholarship interview. This is a screenshot of what the platform looks like. This one is for the public health, but we have one for social work as well. We believe it's a user-friendly kind of welcoming space, and We like this automated video-based interview process because it gives our review committee a chance to get to know you a little more about you, and we believe that this format provides applicants the flexibility to complete the interview at their own convenience. We do have students applying from all over the world, and you know, we feel like it's not fair to invite students in East Asia to have to do an interview during the United States business hours. So everyone can choose the time that works best for them. So we do believe it's a really user-friendly, self-explanatory process. You have a lot of opportunities to practice. There are practice questions, so you can warm up and feel like you're getting used to the technology piece of it and how it works. There are 5 questions, and they're all asked by faculty and staff at the Brown School. So not only are we getting to know you, but you're getting to know a bit about us as well. And then there is a 6th question for our dual degree applicants. And then we like to stress, there are no right or wrong answers. We're not testing you on anything. We are just hoping to get to know you better in your own words, in responding to some broad questions about your areas of interest. And I know we piloted this online interview process last year, and Jonathan actually was a participant. So we're gonna ask him, Jonathan, could you talk a little bit about your experience with this online video interview process and any tips that you might have?
Yeah, so it was really easy to use and it worked seamlessly. And that's typically not the piece that I think that people might struggle with. They might struggle with preparing for what questions might be asked. And I don't know if they're going to be similar questions or different ones from last year, but the ones last year really focused on experiences, situations, how I would approach something specifically. So I think that just kind of knowing what you value, some of the skills that you have, and how you can effectively communicate those in a short time window, really help create a strong video interview.
Great. And it wasn't too scary, was it?
No.
Okay.
A little bit. A little scared, a little nerves are okay though.
I think nerves before any interview are okay. So we are actually, that was our last piece. And we do have a lot of questions coming in, which we're really happy to answer. I'm gonna try to go through them with our behind the scenes maven here. But we're going to put our student first. Jonathan, you have class at 1. So I'm going to thank you very warmly and ask you to exit stage left. And thank you so much.
Thanks. This was
We
fun.
ran a little late and we want to be mindful of Jonathan's first commitment, which is as a student. So thank you. I'm gonna look at our laptop, which has our questions. And so here's the first one. Is it guaranteed that my application will be reviewed if I submit 2 recommendations instead of 3? That's a great question. And actually, only for the MPH program in SOFAS will it, if all of your other materials have been received and verified and you have 2 letters of recommendation, it will push your application forward as complete. That's only in SOFAS for the MPH application. For the MSW, we have to have all 3 to be considered complete and ready for review. Here's a question about the academic essay. Should I back out my social problem with data? And should the intervention come with a theory or just a point of view answer? So that's a great question. I would say data always helps demonstrate your critical thinking. How are you using existing information and data to inform your ideas about interventions and ways to address your social issue? If a certain theory comes into play in the way you're crafting these interventions, by all means, acknowledge that, include it if that's what you want. We don't have any requirement for that, but you know, whatever you need to present your best analytical essay. And yeah, so, and I would definitely say that the analytical essay is more than a point of view answer. It's not an opinion piece. It's using your ideas, but based on fact and data to craft an intervention. Do you allow recommendations through a format such as Interfolio, where references can type one letter and submit it to all schools we are applying to? I don't know that we're set up for that platform. My apologies. We do make it pretty easy for recommenders. It's they just email, or they respond to a link in their email and fill out a Likert scale set of ratings, and then they upload their letter of recommendation. So we hope we make it pretty easy for the recommenders. When choosing a specialization in the MSW program, what are your suggestions on which to choose if I am stuck between a few? So that's a great question. That's maybe a little outside of the, you know, the application process that we're talking about, but I'm happy to give a quick answer to that. We do have an individualized option where you can combine all of your interests. And then the other piece to that is you don't have to declare a special or a concentration until it's time to enroll in your second year of courses. So you have until about the middle of your second semester to really finalize your concentration and specialization choices. The next question, if you are applying for an MSW, can you submit your GRE scores? So we get that question a lot, and I understand you go through the trouble of taking the GRE and you want them to be recognized. We don't really have a place for them to be submitted in the MSW application. So there's really no function for, you know, no place to submit your GRE scores, sorry. So, here's a great question. What citation format do you prefer for the analytical essay? We don't have a preference. So whatever you are comfortable with, APA, MLA, just use that. Just be consistent and do it well. And we don't look at that level of detail. So great question. Can expired certifications or trainings be listed on the resume or CV? I think general practice is that you would only list current certifications. However, if that's something that's important to you, there could be a space to mention that. Or if it's expired, please make sure to note that, you know, when it expired. I understand that you would want to show that you've been through a certain training or certification and may not have stayed up to date on it. But so if you are including it, just make sure you're indicating that it's no longer valid. And that's a great question. How focused should the career goals portion of the personal statement be? Thank you for asking that. We understand that not everyone knows exactly where they want to go when they graduate. And some of our most engaged students are just so passionate about so many things that you don't need to show up here knowing what your career path will be. But I would say just showing the areas that you're passionate about, and you can acknowledge you don't know what your future looks like, but tying it into the Brown School and maybe what you hope to get as far as identifying your career goals, showing that some awareness of that process as part of your graduate school. I would recommend going with that for sure, but you don't have to know exactly what you want to be in 2 years. So, and let's see, is this our last one, or we have a couple more? There's one more here. Does applying early action significantly increase your chances of getting in? So we get a lot of questions from people that want those stats. They want to know their chances, and I don't have those, that information off the top of my head. I would say early action is really for people that are really certain about what they want to do and they want to know the answer quickly. Certainly a benefit would be having kind of a first access to any scholarships. As far as increasing your chances for admission, I would say probably not significantly. So yeah. Oh, and here's another question about our video interview. How long is it supposed to be? How long is it supposed to take, I think? The whole process should take you about 20 to 30 minutes to complete, with any time you need to prepare and go through the practice questions. So shoot for 20 or 30 minutes. If you want to practice questions over and over again, it might take you a little more time, but we try to keep it, manageable time-wise for our applicants as well. Do we have any more questions? All right, so thank you so much for joining us. I hope this has been helpful. I'm going to toggle back to my contact information. Again, my name is Laura Peer, and if you have any follow-up questions, you are absolutely welcome to contact me directly or contact our Brown admissions at woostel.edu, our general contact. And here's just a quick reminder of our deadlines. And I would love to encourage you to tune into our next virtual info session at lunchtime again, November 15th. And it will look at concentration and specialization overviews. So that'll be a great opportunity to explore your options and learn from current student how they have gone about selecting and narrowing down their choices. So thank you so much. I'll keep this information up for a minute, and please stay in touch, and best wishes in your application.